a live recording at Kunzun Cafe at Jorbank, one of my favorite spots. And thank you, Ajay Jain, for being so generous, so kind to offer this venue to me and so many of the podcasts that we have done before at different locations of Kunzun Cafe. I have a very dynamic young entrepreneur here. I'm always very influenced by young people who have started their journey much earlier, and then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, why I didn't do it? So this is Arman Sood, co-founder of Sleepy Owl Coffee. Coffee we all need all the time. We're just having coffee. I just finished mine. Arman is still having a different flavor of coffee right now. So coming from a law background to doing coffee, I think he's traveled a long way in the last 6 years. So Arman, welcome to SecondAct Podcast. This is a place where I literally take out stories of people's second act, higher purpose. What do they really think of life journey, the business that you're doing, how is it transforming you as a person, and so many questions. So my dear friend, thank you for taking out time and coming.
Thank you so much, Archana. I am really glad to be a part of this conversation, and I'm sorry that it took so long to get around to doing this. But thank you for having me, and I'm very excited to talk to you and to share stories.
Yeah, and like when I was listening to some of your interviews, they were all about what kind of money did you make in the last 6 years? What is the investment that one gets as an entrepreneur? I'm not going to ask any of that.
That's absolutely fine.
This podcast is all about you. So let's start with you. So you did law. Right, and what happened then? What happened then with coffee? Did you stay up all night studying and you thought, oh my God, don't I have a coffee which really gives me the pep and also doesn't really give me so much caffeine that I don't get any sleep? So
I think it would be,
mix of both.
No, I think it would be, oversimplified to say that that's how we landed up here, right? I wish the story were that simple and that easy. But that's not the case.
Okay.
Actually, on the first day of my law school journey, I met my current co-founder, and this would be now, we're entering 2023, so 13 years ago is when I met my co-founder, Ashwajit. We became friends on the first day at law school, young 18-year-olds.
Wow.
And I think, that was... as youngsters, when you meet, right, you get influenced by each other, right, as friends. So I think I was all gung-ho, ready to become a lawyer. And Ashwajit was there not by choice. He always wanted to do business, but he was pushed into pursuing a career in law. So from the first day, he wasn't keen on being there.
Okay.
So he found me, and he convinced me to take this journey with him and said that, listen, there's a beautiful world of business and entrepreneurship out there, and it's one that I want to explore, and I want you to explore it with me. And I think, at that age, you're very curious as individuals. So I said, okay, let's learn and talk about business. So all our conversations would revolve around entrepreneurship and business, right? And over the years, while we were in law school and studying, we started multiple businesses actually. So
already?
Yes. So we started our first business at 18. We started.
What was that?
It was a restaurant on campus. So I was at Jindal Law School. The university was 1.5 years old. There were almost no F&B options for the 250 students on campus. So we actually ended up starting a small kitchen, night kitchen, where we were making omelets and sandwiches, and it was a fun experience. It was a mini business in itself, and the warden shut us down 4 weeks into operation.
Oh, wow.
Rules, and then we realized that rules are meant to be broken. So we said, okay, आप बंद कर, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, आपने बंद करवा दिया तो कुछ और करते हैं. And the second business that we did was college merchandise. So very inspired by universities abroad, and we said, yeah, just 250 kids, but the university is starting, and apni branded hoodies or t-shirts to honi chahiye.
Cool.
So we started sourcing and merchandise and selling it to our peers. So we did that for 3 years. Every year we learned something, made mistakes, improved on them, and realized, the full cycle of the operations, the marketing to the students, to collecting cash, to pocketing a little bit of the profits that we made out of this whole exercise. So बहुत मजा आया. And 2012, we said, let's take it a step further. and we imported bar and party accessories from China and set up an e-commerce website selling beer pong tables, beer bongs, and we did that for 3 years in law school.
Wow.
And so it was all of these, mini steps that led us to ultimately coffee, right? That was...
but I think you were already birthing so much of entrepreneurship inside you.
And they say na कीड़ा है. So वो कीड़ा 18 पे लगा, 19 पे लगा. By the time we graduated law school, we said, yeah, law करना ही नहीं है. So parents were quite surprised कि यार, okay, you've done 5 years of law school and you don't want to pursue a career in law.
And especially Jindal, like, of course.
Yeah, it was more expensive than most national law universities, and luckily, we were both on scholarships, and it wasn't. But yeah, parents were very clear that while they supported us in all our activities, they said you have to make sure that you get your degree, you get good grades. There was no compromise on that. So we were studious and we did our studies, but by the end of it, man ut gaya tha. So we want to get into the world of entrepreneurship and business. And when we graduated law school in 2015, we didn't have a concrete idea. The coffee idea wasn't there. It came much later. So it wasn't that law school में हम रात को जगे रहते थे and उससे coffee का idea आया. Not really. That's why I said it would be an oversimplified story if that was the case, but that wasn't the case. Ashwajit started working at a fashion startup called Cora Jeans. I went to EdTech, Education Technology in Mumbai. And our third co-founder, who I hadn't met, he was Ashwajit's childhood friend, school friend. He was in New York at JP Morgan working as an investment banker. So three of us had very different, jobs after our respective college education. But like I said, Ashwajit, he says, I want to do something, but I want to do it with you guys, And he convinced us to look at and start exploring another business idea. तभी भी coffee नहीं था. तभी भी था कि बस एक business करना है और साथ में करना है as friends. And we'll have fun while we do it, and we'll enjoy our life together as business partners and on this journey of life. So I said yes to him again, we still don't have the coffee idea. But I said, yes, we'll do a business together. That's when we started exploring, what are our interests, what will we enjoy doing, what are the gaps in the market, kahan hum contribute kar sakte hain to this world around us, right? And we narrowed it to food and beverage and consumer products because we felt that this is somewhere where it doesn't feel like work. And that's how we arrived on food and beverage. And then, a sub-segment of that was coffee. And that's how we got into the world of coffee.
Wow, very interesting. While you're talking about your co-founders, this is something that I, in my entrepreneurship journey, has seen that it's not easy to firstly find somebody, then to trust somebody.
True.
Then to also work with somebody seamlessly. And I think it's more than 6 years that you're doing that, right?
Correct, yeah.
So what is the mantra, by the way? Firstly, to find that somebody, of course, you said your childhood friend or somebody whom you met during university. So one is that. But then to be able to work with that somebody and then to build this trust over years. I mean, how have you all done it?
I think, it starts with friendship, in my opinion, right? Like you got to have, be comfortable with being around that person, right? So I think Ajay and Ashwajit, when they met, and we're 3 co-founders. So Ajay and Ashwajit met when they were in Sinar in a boarding school. So the boarding school life, and I'm not, so they keep bullying me because I have a non-boarding school life and they have a boarding school life. So they talk about their memories from boarding school and how that shaped them in a very fond manner. So they had their beds beside each other in the 5th standard as 10, 12-year-olds, right? 10 years old, yeah. And, they've shared those experiences and, in their very formative years, right? And how that shaped them. And even university, when I was 18 and, I left Calcutta, went to Jindal, and it was my first time outside of the comfort of home, that sheltering that you grow up in, that was not there. So again, I found Ashwajit, we were like-minded people, got along and became best of friends, right? So I think it all starts with friendship, which leads to, trust, which is developed over time.
Right.
And being able to work together, you have to experiment, right? There's no guarantee that two friends will work well together.
Absolutely.
But we've had our share of, ups and downs, hits and misses, quirks and nuances of who we are, what, how we behave, what our shortcomings are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. And, when we started Sleepy Owl, which, is the most successful of our adventures, we already had, many years under our belt of being able to stand each other, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think that's the fundamental that needs to be in place, right?
So who does what?
Yeah. So, like I said, Ajay was an investment banker. So clearly,
He gets all the money.
He gets all the money. So all the finance,
I like those people.
yeah,
I
all
also
the
want
all the
somebody like
finance, business modeling, team building, all of that was his, right? Investor relations. We said, listen, this is yours. That's your core skill set. That's what you do best. That's what you understand. Ashrijit and I, what we studied, was law, right? So for us, it was, let's figure out, in the world of business, where do we stand? What will we enjoy doing and what are we good at, right? And it was very evident from our early behaviors that I have zero design sense. I have zero, I'm colorblind as well. So anything design related, branding related, colors related, I was like, I'm not even interested. मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, right? Like playing with a camera, understanding photography, understanding aesthetic. It requires a person with, a very keen eye and, attention to detail, which Ashwajit had, right? And even if, let's say, he was excited to learn that. I wasn't, right? So for me, it was then by default, what's left over? It was like operations, supply chain, procurement, sourcing, all of those functions, product development, manufacturing karna. So I said, okay, let's learn that. So I had no experience in any of this, but I said, I'm excited to learn that, and that's what's left over for me to do. So yeah, that's how we initially divided the role among the three of us. But for the first couple of months, there was a lot of overlap and, a lot of confusion. And then we had this one big meeting where we sat down maybe 4 or 5 months into the business and said, no, there's a concept called the buck stops at you, right? So if it's anything in manufacturing, supply chain, operation, the buck stops at me.
Right.
There is no one I can turn to and complain, and vice versa in their respective roles. And that really helped us understand that, okay, this is what you do and this is what you're accountable for, right? And that led to less fights, less confusion, less drama, and I think that really helped us understand how we can work together in a sustainable manner. We were also living together, by the way, the three of us when we started. So it was, this, you're in each other's faces day in and day out. But I think that's made us stronger overall, yeah.
So I think I love your story, and it takes you all the way back to, just bridging something which you see now. But I'm sure that there were times when you all said, this is not happening, let's wind it up. And then what kept you going then?
I think, given the fact that we'd changed our career trajectories, right? And we were, far off from what we'd studied, at least for Ashwajit and I, right? What we'd really studied and were expected to become lawyers, right? Since we had made that switch and we'd invested a certain amount of time into, getting this up and running, I think the wind-up conversation never happened, right? The tough times was just, okay, how do we overcome these obstacles? How do we overcome the tough times? But I don't think there's been any point in the journey where we've given up hope or, even on the toughest days, the darkest days, we haven't said, let's wind it up. And the simple reason for that is because, we know that what we're doing is providing immense value to our users and consumers, and that, there's a place for us in this world, right? And that place cannot easily be filled by, yes, coffee is a commodity. Yes, there are hundreds of, places that are serving coffee, hundreds of brands serving coffee. But we, from the very early on, realized that we have a unique identity and a unique place in this world. And if it were not there, it would matter. So we know that what we're doing is important. So,
I'm very, very glad that it happened for you and you're still there and you're, in fact, growing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so if you had to sum up for the younger people who are either becoming entrepreneurs or coming together to create companies, what are the few things, the three things that come to your mind that you want to tell them?
Okay, I would say since we've touched upon in the early part of our conversation on co-founders, right? I would say find someone to be on this journey with. Akele mat karo. Right? I think, it's amazing when you have a sounding board, someone to look towards in tough times, someone to celebrate the good times with, right? Because these memories are to be made with people, right? I'm not saying that solo entrepreneurs or solo founders don't work. Both, there's no right or wrong. But looking back at my journey, I would say first and foremost is, have co-founders. Second thing I'd say is that, definitely try and convince your near and dear ones and your loved ones, and go out of my way to say parents in this case, if they're around, get their buy-in, right? Because the world of entrepreneurship or the world of setting up a business is you're fighting against the whole world to exist, right? So अगर आपको अपने parents का support नहीं है, it becomes a much tougher journey to fight two battles, right? So if you have their buy-in on day one and you have their blessings on day one, you always know that कुछ भी हो जाए, your business may fail, right? And आपके पास रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान और प्यार, ये चार चीजें आपको मिल जाएंगी, right? Which are, I think, the most basic necessities that we as humans need, right? And I know that these four will always be there, if from nobody, but my parents will give that to me, right? So that little bit of security and support is I think very important. And the third being, and I think the third is, just do right by your customer from day one, right? Once you set a standard, you have, set the expectations, then keep living up to that, right? Don't take shortcuts with your product or with service, right? Be jugadu, hustle, be jugadu, do things intelligently, take shortcuts in, in certain places where you need to, but not in terms of, don't compromise on your product or the service that you're providing, because these are non-negotiable. Right? So that would be the third piece of advice.
Very nice. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And I hope that people who are starting off or just about in the journey to progress and, just take it a bit forward, I think these three things really stand. And what I want to say is that when I started off as well, I kept missing that somebody. Like you said, you need somebody as a sounding board, as a person who can celebrate. But not everybody's as lucky as you three. So keep that bond and keep it alive and keep it stronger, and more power to you all.
Thank you so much.
So to the other two who are not here, this is for you. Okay, so Arman, tell us, so you've come this far, not to go not to be here, right?
Correct.
What is that sentence? You have come this far,
There's still a long way to go.
Okay, we will recap that bit. But you have come this far, but at the same time, there is, of course, that a lot that you want to take the company to. So what are the things that you have introduced in India? And because of the Indian palate, of course, I know that you export a lot outside. There is a few things that, you keep here because of probably we are still, as Indians, discovering the taste of coffee, right? So what is it that you're
So, we started out as India's first cold brew coffee company, right? The first brand to actually package cold brew coffee and introduce it to the Indian market. So from day one, our focus has been on consumer education, right? We realized that what we're bringing to the table is so novel, so new that most people are not even searching for it or aware about it, right? In fact, even today, 6 years on, we feel like it'll take another 60 before mass India accepts cold brew as a concept, right? But we started our journey with that because we felt that, this is something that is unique, it is innovative, and it is something that we could be associated with for the times to come, right? And I think that builds a lot of brand recall. So from day one till now, focus has been on educating the consumer. And then we realized that when we started getting traction, consumers actually were, very surprised that ऐसा भी हो सकता है. This is so innovative, this is so unique, ये इतनी नई चीज़ है, right? That we tried to say, okay, everything that we do going forward has to live up to this standard of innovation, uniqueness, right? We also introduced coffee in a dip bag, right?
Okay, yeah.
We were the first brand to do that in India in the way we did it. And again, consumers were so surprised that, okay, wow, coffee ऐसे भी पी जा सकती है, right? Because if you look at historically, in the last 20, 25, 30 odd years, coffee consumption has been primarily instant coffee, right?
Yeah.
And that's because there was no education, there was no one trying to tell people that there's a better way to do it or there are different ways to consume it.
Yeah.
So we decided to take a lead on doing that, but to make it less intimidating for consumers, right? We do export a little and we do intend to, export more in the years to come, but we always wanted to be Indian coffee. And we also, when we got into this, we realized that, India has such wonderful coffee, हमें पता ही नहीं था, right? So we realized that if we are getting into the business and we are discovering these things, then the regular Indian consumer is not exposed to Indian coffee. So primary objective is to serve India and then take Indian coffee to the rest of the world.
Oh, super. So how are you really pegging yourself against the Starbucks? Or how different are you then?
Okay, so let's say Starbucks is a brand that is largely cafes, right, in India and around the world, right?
Right.
Our focus is to be on the FMCG side, which is fast-moving consumer goods. Right. We primarily supply to retail stores, online on our own website, Amazon. We don't have a cafe of our own at Sleepy Owl, right?
Coming soon.
Maybe. I've been saying never say never for the last 6 years. So let's see. Let's see when there'll be a conversation with someone where I'll say yes, we have one cafe.
Yeah.
But so
we come here on this podcast again.
Yes. So we have our own. Our business model is to, get into consumers' homes, right? We want to be an in-home coffee brand.
Super.
And that's sort of the niche that we are. We've realized early on that you can't be everything for everyone. Right? You have to pick your stance and then, stick to that.
So, mornings for you is chai or coffee?
Coffee.
Still coffee?
Yeah, still coffee. It's always been. I've had coffee growing up as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bachpan se, I wasn't a big fan of Bonvita or Horlicks or Complan, so ऐसे ही लंबा हो गया. So the.
Are you listening? These brands?
And so for me, the way to get milk into my system for my parents was 2 chammach coffee dal do.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So I grew up having coffee and I enjoy my cup of tea, no doubt, but coffee is my go-to beverage.
Great. Arman, this is a SecondAct podcast. And my question, of course, this is the highlight of the entire episode. If I ask you, what's your second act?
So I think in terms of if I were to look at it today, I think the first act would be my approach to entrepreneurship in university, and the second act is going on right now, right? If I look at this as my first act and then what my second act will be, I think the second act is to encourage more people to, take the journey of entrepreneurship, right? I think a lot of people, and we've all seen 3 Idiots and how, I think Madhavan was, into photography, but he was in engineering, and that fight that he had with his parents to change his career. I think one must not be afraid to experiment. And I want to, I want to tell my story as much as I can because it should encourage more people to not connect what they've studied with what they have to do in life, right? Like the two can be disconnected because education to me is just something that shapes your mind. Right? आप कोई भी subject ले लो, आप कुछ भी पढ़ लो, right? Ultimately, the act of acquiring information, processing it, applying it is what trains your mind, right?
Yeah.
But then you should be able to apply it wherever you want to and whatever truly deeply interests you. And I think that gap is still there where there's a lot of fear both in students and in parents and in youngsters कि यार ये कैसे कर सकते हो आप आपने ये पढ़ाई किया आप वो कैसे कर सकते हो. I think that mindset needs to change, and I'm not saying that we're successful. That's why it's easier to say it. I just believe that success or failure aside, you need to grab the opportunity to do these things. So I think my second act would be to really go down and encourage and motivate more people to take chances.
Very nice.
take risks.
And that's a great second act story. And I'm sure the younger people who are hearing will get inspired because, like you said, they're always in a dilemma. I've studied this and a pressure from the parents, you know, that itna paisa is pe kharch kiya, wo kaise ho sakta hai? So you start your journey there. So take chances. But of course, a very big part of taking entrepreneurship is money.
Correct.
So what do you have to say about that?
Taking money as in to start
Right, yeah,
or
to start. I mean,
okay.
you do need
of course.
certain amount of funding,
100%.
a certain amount of
So again, I'll go back. I mean, I'm very fortunate to come from privilege, right? And by privilege, I mean we're of middle class family, right? But I think what I said earlier, right? If you, I mean, your parents have to be on your side, right? So our seed funding for my college activities, the businesses that we tried then, even for Sleepy Owl, that seed funding came from our parents, right? If my parents were not supportive or they weren't, kind enough to say, okay, take my money, take that risk, I don't think we'd be where we are today. So we're very lucky and very fortunate to have that. Having said that, I think over the last 10 years or so, with the way entrepreneurship and the Indian, the Indian ecosystem of entrepreneurship has evolved. I think if you have, good ideas, you are executing at a bare minimum level, right? And you're showing that, listen, I understand what I'm doing. I know that there is a, opportunity here. I don't think money is out of access. Mil jayega, right? Again, easier said than done. Right? अब आप बोलोगे कि कैसे होगा? How do I do it? I have an idea. I've executed a little bit. I've shown some. But I think beyond that, right? Networking, talking to the right people, getting on LinkedIn, looking around you. I think ultimately you will reach, money will find you if you're doing the right thing. And if it doesn't find you, if money doesn't find you, I think there are a lot of successful businesses that are bootstrapped. Right? I don't think money is the answer to building a business, right? In fact, it can be a curse, right? Look at so many businesses around you that you raise too much money too quickly, you make decisions based on the money you have in the bank, and businesses go south. Kisi ke saath bhi ho sakta hai. So, I genuinely don't think that, money is always the answer. I think going back to the fundamentals, good product, good service, actual need for what you are building, those things will, in the long run make a big difference.
I think what you said is very powerful, that, firstly understand what are you serving. I think that is the first step.
Bilkul.
And secondly, of course, the belief that, you're adding value to that service as well. And of course, the customer itself, right? Because unless that customer is satisfied, nothing will grow.
True.
So I think great conversation here on your, the life journey that you're, especially at work. Now I want to know a little bit about you through my rapid fire.
Okay.
And the first question on that one is the one highlight of 2022.
The one highlight of 2022. Very interesting. I think, over the course of the last year, I would say 2021, 2022, I have, in my personal life, adopted a few pets. So I think it's been a very exciting time, just really looking at, we adopted some of the street, some, from friends, and I have a bunch of pets at home.
What is a bunch like?
I have 8 cats and 5 dogs.
That's quite a lot.
So it is. But it's
so no girlfriend or this?
No, I have a wife. I'm married.
You're married.
I'm married. So.
Oh my God, she's also looking after so many people and you.
Together, and me and I her. No, but it's been when. But the best part that I like about this is that they live in the present. कोई टेंशन नहीं है.
I know.
कोई ना फ्यूचर का टेंशन ना पास्ट का टेंशन. They are so happy in the present and they
so giving.
So giving and so taking also. वो प्यार देते भी हैं लेते भी हैं.
Yeah.
But I think that's been and I feel like any stress I have in the day,
so
I just go back home and it's all cuddles.
So the next question is that 2023. What are you looking at for this year?
Very interesting. Personally or business wise?
I would always say personally.
Okay, cool. Personally, I'm looking to, and I say this every year, that's the joke, that I say this every year, but I'm looking to look after myself, my health, right? And reason I say that is because I think over the last 3 or 4 years, work sometimes takes a toll on you or gets the better of you, right? And you get lazy and so on and so forth. So I've always been active, but I think that there needs to be more consistency to being active, and I'm really looking forward to getting healthier and fitter in the coming year.
That's a good goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you going to do for that? What is your first step? Like a coach, I must ask.
Okay. The first step. So I was earlier this month, we're in December right now, right? So earlier this month I was telling my wife, first Jan I'll start working out, I'll join a gym. That was the conversation we were having, and I think I got a sounding of my life from her, saying that you keep postponing it. So I think it's been a week since I've joined and working with a trainer. Nice. So I think the first thing is that stop procrastinating and setting unrealistic future dates to start things. आप शुरू कर सकते हो. And for me it was a big struggle. I was like नहीं 1 तारीख के पहले तो करना ही कुछ नहीं करना. But then last week I joined, and I feel like now I'm setting myself up for success, right? Because I've not the first 15 days in December, which is the toughest time to look after your health. But I was like, okay, let's start now and let's enter the year with a bang, not start next year.
So thanks for my next question. So what is success for you?
Very interesting. I think, it's an emotion, it's a feeling. Like, I don't think there's no measure to it. It's just a feeling, right? So I feel like I'm quite successful now. I believe I've felt successful on most days in the past as well, right? I don't think, any numeric value of money or funds or, is success. I don't feel like, I've served 1 million customers or 10 million customers. I think, success is if people value what you're bringing to the table across the spectrum, right? People talk about successful family life, successful marriage, successful this. So success is in every domain, right? So I think it's a daily emotion. Yeah, it's an emotion. It's a daily emotion. Yeah, because you don't. It's not a one-time thing. You've succeeded. Yeah, you succeed and you fail every day. Yeah. Right. It's a daily thing. You definitely fail also every day, and then how you get up from that failure is also success. Right. So it's good to fail, because only if you fail and you recover from that failure, you feel that, okay, now I've succeeded. So yeah, that's my take.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
So one thing you want to leave us with as like your mantra from your life, which can really bring us that pep.
Okay. I'm a fairly happy-go-lucky person by nature. And I think that my mantra would be is don't take life too seriously. Just have fun, enjoy yourself. Yeah. So yeah, and don't take life and don't take yourself also too seriously. Yeah. So that's my mantra. I think it can be, one can extract what they want from that statement.
Yeah. So thank you, Arman. What a lovely podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for being my special guest before I wrapped up my 100th.
This
is extremely special as well, because I haven't done too many in-person podcasts as well.
Lovely.
There are a lot of Zoom because of, I started off only during COVID. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy this space, and I hope that it was okay for you as well.
I loved it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's lovely to be surrounded by books in this place. And I think another, I've been reading last couple of years, but I also buy more books than I can read. So I want to, ensure that a part of 2023 involves more reading, and I'm really excited for it. Yeah. I also, I mostly read books in business and entrepreneurship. I read my first fiction book this weekend after many years. Wow. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Wow. So I feel like, again, just going out of your comfort zone and doing things that, एक mind block हो जाता है कि मैं fiction नहीं पढ़ता. Someone asks you, what kind of books do you read? And I'm like, I read things, but I don't read fiction. Yeah. Just you're putting yourself in that bubble. So I told this to someone, and that person said no. They gifted me a fiction book and said, "Padho." And I read it, and I just really enjoyed it. So I'm like, why was I putting myself in this bubble? unnecessarily. So I think just breaking out of, how you look at yourself is also very important.
So Ajay Jain, are you hearing this? We are sitting in your beautiful space, and this person loves fiction because, according to Ajay, who doesn't read fiction is somebody who should start reading fiction. So thank you again, and what a fantastic day.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you so much.